live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show. Welcome to the FTNBets Cast for Thursday, April 28th here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our good friends at Sleeper HQ. Today is a huge day in the sports world right now. We have the NFL draft going on tonight, as well as MLB action and some more NBA playoff action. But before we get into that, we're going to talk a little bit about Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform with millions of players. And now you could win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game. It's super simple. First, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like, and you're going to pick whether you think they're going to go over or under their listed total. So, for example, in basketball, we'd be talking about things like points or rebounds, maybe three-pointers or steals. In a sport like baseball, we'd be talking about things like hits and runs, maybe strikeouts if we're talking about a pitcher. If you pick correctly, you could win anywhere from 2 times to 20 times your money if you go 5 out of 5 and get them all right. But the main reason why I'm excited about the over-under game on Sleeper is that it's the only app where I can play in contest along with my friends, and we can all play together. It has a built-in group chat function. So basically, I could see what you're playing. You could see what I'm playing. We could all see what the guy who won 3 or 4 days in a row in our group is playing. This way, we can all play the same stuff and, kind of root for our teams to win together. It's insanely fun when we're all sitting here sweating the same games, trying to make sure that we get over those numbers or under those numbers so that we could all win some money. So right now, I want you to stop what you're doing and download the Sleeper app to play their new over-under game. You could use promo code FTNBets. You sign up, you deposit up to $100, and they will match your first deposit up to that $100 amount. Again, download Sleeper, promo code FTNBets, make that deposit. There are terms and conditions that apply, so you do need to see the Sleeper terms and conditions of use for those details. And now we're going to get into today's NBA action. Like I said, there are two main things going on today in the world. One of them is the NFL draft, and the other one is actually take your child to work day going on out there. You could hear that little laugh in the background. That's my son, Ethan, making his podcast debut today. He's going to help me out with some of the games that we're going to talk about here. So little E, are you ready to go?
Yes.
All right. So here you go. The first game that we're going to talk about here today is
Philadelphia 76ers versus Toronto Raptors. Philly leads series 3-2.
There you go. The Philadelphia 76ers versus the Toronto Raptors, the first game that we are going to be talking about here today on the FTN Bets Cast. Philly is leading this series 3-2. They won by 20 and 15 at home in the first two games. They won by 3 in overtime in the first game in Toronto. And then they've lost the last 2 games in Toronto by 8 points and by 15 points, the last 2 games that have gone off here. So when we're looking at the numbers here today, 1.5 is the number that's out there in the market. DraftKings, Caesars, Unibet, BetRivers, SugarHouse all have the Philadelphia 76ers as a road favorite here today by 1.5 points. I got to be honest, that is where my lean is here today. I thought Philly should have closed this series out already. I know Toronto has played very well in the last 2 games. I will not be betting on this game because I do think that Toronto has the ability, especially at home, to push this to a game 7 and send it back to Philly. But if you're asking me where it is, my lean is going to be on the 76ers side of this game at -1.5. I thought it should have been 2.5. So I do think we got a little bit of value there. If you're looking to play the Toronto Raptors side of this game, +1.5, -105 on both BetMGM and PointsBet is the best price you can get on this game over there. Philly is currently -700 to win this series. Toronto +500 to come back, win these final 2 games, and pull off the 3-0 sweep in order to basically come out of nowhere and win a series when everybody kind of thought they were dead. One piece of injury news we got to talk about here. Fred VanVleet sat out the last game for the Toronto Raptors, and Fred VanVleet, again, is listed as questionable here. Actually, to be honest, he's probably more like doubtful from everything that I'm reading here. I know it's listed as questionable, but it looks more like he's doubtful to play here, and I am not looking at him as somebody who's likely to be out on the floor. Even if he is able to be out there, I doubt he's anywhere near 100%. So let's talk about some of the over-under numbers that we can play on the sleeper app here today. One of my favorite in this game. So here's an interesting thing, right? Like we talked about Gary Trent the last time. Gary Trent was sick, non-COVID injury, but was definitely under the weather for the first 2 games of the series, and he did not play very well. The last couple games, though, he has played pretty well. And the thing is, there's 2 numbers here that I'm interested in. One of them is 18.5 points, if he can go over that. And the other one is over 2.5 3-pointers. Now, there is a difference between playing these numbers, and I'm going to explain this to you. On the sleeper app, my favorite play is to go over 2.5 3-pointers for Gary Trent. He's taken 9, 10, and 6 in the last 3 games, and he's averaged 3 3-pointers per game. He had 4, 3, and 2 in those 3 games. So we need him to hit 3 to get over that 2.5 right here. If you look at the sports books, this is a number that's minus 135, minus 140. So it's juiced way up here. But on sleeper, it doesn't matter what the number is on the sports book. It just matters what the over-under number is, which is 2.5. The fact that it's juiced up to minus 135 means that the sports books think this is way more likely than 52.5% at minus 110 in order to happen. And so do the bettors, really, because the bettors are the ones that have kind of bet that number up to that minus 135 level. If you're on the sleeper app, the one that I like to play better is going to be Gary Trent over 2.5 3-pointers here today. Now, if you're looking at the sports books, though, I don't want to lay that minus 135 juice. What I would rather do on the sports books, we could get over 18.5 points on Gary Trent for minus 110 on Caesars right now. He had 24, 24, and 16 in the 3 games since returning from, being a little under the weather at the beginning there. The thing I like, though, is he's taken 20, 19, and 14 shots. He's played 45, 39, and 39 minutes. So this is a guy that is out on the floor for about 40 minutes a game right now, taking 15-plus shots a game right now. And we need him to get over 18.5 points, which is something that he's done in 2 of the last 3 games when he's been completely healthy. The one game that he missed, he only hit 2 3-pointers in that game, and he was 2.5 points below this number. If he hits the 3 that he's been averaging for the series, he would have gotten over it. So I think there's a good chance that Gary Trent can go over this number. You could play the 18.5 on sleeper as well, but I think there's a better value by playing the over 2.5 threes there. But at minus 110 versus minus 135 or minus 145 on the sports books, I would rather make the bet on Gary Trent to go over 18.5 points rather than playing him to go over 2.5 3-pointers because we're getting a better payout at that minus 110 level. 2 other things I'm looking at in this game, Scotty Barnes over 7.5 rebounds. So Barnes has only played in 3 of the 5 games of the series, but in those 3 games, he has 10, 11, and 8 rebounds. The thing that I like the most about this bet, too, Scotty Barnes played 41 minutes in the last game with Fred VanVleet not in there and them being in an elimination game. I expect that to be the case for Toronto until they get eliminated. These guys are going to be playing 38 to 41 minutes in these games. Guys like Siakam, guys like Barnes, probably Gary Trent as well. Like these are the guys that are going to be on the floor for massive amounts of time. So I always feel safe taking overs and guys that I know are going to get a bump in minutes from what they played in the regular season. And that's what Scotty Barnes is going to get here. So I really like this over 7.5 rebounds on Scotty Barnes. This is probably one of my favorite plays for us to play on the sleeper app here today. As for the sports books, if you're looking to play this on the sports book, it's kind of juiced up. And this is why it's one of my favorite plays here today. The cheapest you can find this now, it opened at minus 110 yesterday. It's already up to minus 140 on BetMGM, minus 150 on DraftKings. And all the other books have moved it up to 8.5 rebounds here already today. So again, this is another one that's better to play on the sleeper app than play as a bet, because I don't want to lay that minus 140, minus 150 juice. But at minus 150, I mean, listen, you're basically saying that this has like a 66% chance of happening. That's definitely something we want to include with our sleeper app plays. When you have something that's a 66% chance of happening, that is how we're going to be able to make money, by putting those kind of things together when we're building our, 3 or 4 player over under kind of parlays. The last bet that I'm going to talk about here is one that we got screwed out of in the last game, and that is Tobias Harris over 7.5 rebounds. This series, he has 6, 10, 12, 11, and 7 rebounds in the 5 games here. Now, if you guys remember, I was talking about this the other night in chat, over in the Discord chat at FTNBets, which is available to all of our subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, get over to ftnbets.com/pricing. Use promo code Benny. You can save 20% off on any of our packages over there. There was a play towards the end where the ball kind of bounced around a little bit, and the official scorer in Philly gave the rebound to Joel Embiid, even though it was a Tobias Harris rebound. Harris went on and got another rebound about a minute later that should have put him over the 7.5 number, but they counted the first rebound for Embiid instead of Harris, and he finished at 7. Bad breaks, maybe. Those are the things with the home official scores. Reminds me of the New Orleans Pelicans back in the day when they still had Anthony Davis. The official scores at home for Anthony Davis used to just give him every single rebound that came down, every extra block, everything. So his stats were just off the charts. All my DFS players out there know this. We used to play Anthony Davis at home all the time. It was definitely a thing. And I kind of feel like that's the way Embiid got it. We don't have to worry about that this game, though, for Tobias Harris, because the game is back up in Toronto. The 2 games that they played in Toronto, he had double-doubles in both of those games, and we only need him to get over 7.5 rebounds here. So I really like this Tobias Harris play here today. Tobias Harris, we're going back to the well to try to make up for the money we lost the other day with a 7.5 over on the rebound. You could get this on the sports books as well, minus 105 on DraftKings and BetMGM here today. I like that Tobias Harris prop a lot, and it's another one you could play on Sleeper. Although on Sleeper, my 2 favorite ones, Gary Trent over 2.5 3-pointers, and Scotty Barnes over 7.5 rebounds for today. All right, so now it is time for us to go on and talk about the second game here. So I'm going to bring my boy Ethan back in to tell us who the second game is today.
Phoenix Suns versus New Orleans Pelicans. Phoenix lead series 3-2.
There you go. So the Phoenix Suns with a chance to close out the series here, and a chance to close it out on the road in New Orleans tonight for game 6 of this series. Phoenix won the first game by 11, lost the second game by 11, won the third game by 3, lost the fourth game by 15, and then won the fifth game by 15. So if you're trying to figure out how this is going to go, good luck, everybody out there, because I don't know either. I think Phoenix should be favored in this game. I think Phoenix should win this game. Phoenix is a road favorite at the moment. They are -2 at a -108 price over on WinBet. That's the best place you can play them. If you like the Pelicans in this game, if you want to be on the Pelican side, you can get the home dog +2.5 and a -109 on both Bet Rivers and Sugar House, and Unibet as well has it at -109 for that +2.5. A lot of +2.5, -110s out there in the market too. Same thing on the Phoenix side. There's a lot of -2 at -110 as well. So either one of those numbers are decent, but you can get slightly better by getting the -108 on Phoenix at win, or by taking the -109 on Bet Rivers, Sugar House, or Unibet if you're on the New Orleans Pelicans side. The totals in this game, the first game was 209, the second game 239, 225, 221, and then 209. The number here today is 214. It's tough for me to look at a total in this game because, most of these games have been leaning to the over. The last game kind of went a little bit under. If I had to choose something here, I would probably want to lean to the over here. You can get the over at -110 on FanDuel at 213.5. So 213.5 on FanDuel, -110. If you want to play an under, 214 on WinBet at -108. Most of the other books have this at 214 -110. So again, you could save a couple basis points there, but nothing really crazy. As for the series, Phoenix is a huge favorite to win the series. They are -1,000 to win the series, which is why I said if you're going to lean anywhere today, I think leaning at Phoenix -2 does make a little bit of sense on sides here. So that would probably be where my lean is. But again, did not put a bet in on that Phoenix -2. The New Orleans Pelicans are +600 to win the series. So they're being given even a shorter price than Toronto or Utah, who are also the other teams playing tonight, and the other teams that are down 3-2 in the series that they're playing in. So New Orleans is the longest favorite to move on here tonight. Phoenix being the favorite that has the best chance to close out the series here today. There's only one prop bet that I'm looking at here today, and that's Jonas Valanciunas rebounds over 12.5. This is at a -122 on FanDuel, which is the best price you can find. It's -140 on DraftKings and BetMGM. I thought the -122 was a little bit below. I was expecting to see this in that -135 range. So -140 is even a little bit higher than I thought. And it makes sense too, because Jonas Valanciunas has gone over 12.5 rebounds in 4 of the 5 games of this series. He's averaging 15.6 rebounds per game in this series. He has 25, 13, 11, 15, and 14. So that 11 is the worst number that he had in this series. And again, that was still almost cashing on the 12.5 number that he's been sitting at here. with this being juiced up, I think you could play this on both sleeper and on the sports books today. Like I said, on the sports books, it's minus 122 on FanDuel is the best price, minus 140 elsewhere. So go to FanDuel right now and play this one before that number moves up. And then on the sleeper app, this is something that should be a minus 135, minus 140, which is, a little bit less, maybe around the 60% chance, like a 57 to 60% chance of happening, which is something that's, again, more than a coin flip, more likely than not to happen. So we like the Jonas Valanciunas one on the sleeper app as well, but we also like this one on a bet. I don't have anything else in this game that I really like. We played DeAndre Ayton over 20.5 points last game. He finished one basket short at 19, but I do have a little bit of a lean there. The problem is it's juiced up again today. So I don't want to pay minus 130, minus 125, minus 140 for this. If it was at minus 110, I would consider it. But if we have to pay any juice on it, it doesn't really make sense to go. Chris Paul assist. He's had at least 10 in every game this series. But the assist number is 11.5, a number that he's only been over, I think, in 2 or 3 games this series. So again, it's a good number. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm not saying that he will do it. What I'm saying is that's exactly where the number should be, and there's not really any value there. The only other guy that I see listed props for on sleeper is Jay Crowder, and I don't want to mess with that. He is so volatile. He could score 15 points on 5 threes if his shot's dropping, or 3 points on, 0 for 9 shooting from 3-point land if it's not dropping. So I don't want to touch that number really at all. Some of the defensive stuff there, like the steals and the blocks, it's just too variable for me to want to be in. And then even the other scorers on the New Orleans side, like, I love Brandon Ingram. I love CJ McCollum, but I think their numbers are where their numbers should be. If they were in the low 20s, then I would be interested. They're in the mid 20s today, which is where I have both of these guys projected. So not really any value on that one. So that's going to wrap it up. That's going to wrap it up for the second game here between Phoenix and New Orleans. Yo, Little E, you want to help me out with the third game here?
Sure. Okay, we got the Dallas Mavericks for Utah Jazz. Dallas leads series 3-2.
All right, so there you go. Dallas with a chance to close it out in Utah here today. Dallas won the first game by 6. Dallas lost the first game by 6, won the second game by 6, won the third game by 8, lost the fourth game by 1. And then Dallas had a 25-point blowout in game 5 when they came back to Dallas here. So Dallas is in charge of this series, leading it 3-2. The totals in this series have been pretty low except for one game. We had 192, 214, 244, and then 199 and 179 in the 2 games since Luka returned. And that is why I like the under in this game here. This opened at 211.5. You could play an over on 209.5 on WinBet at minus 108 right now, or you could play an under at 210 on PointsBet at a minus 110. That's the number that I'm interested in here today. Again, the 2 games since Luka came back, they have not even cracked the 200, let alone 210 here. So I'm thinking that this is going to be one of those lower scoring games on the, on the overall threshold. I will say this: last game was one of the worst games I've seen the Utah Jazz play. Donovan Mitchell, I think, finished with Donovan Mitchell and Bojan Bogdanovic, if I'm not mistaken, both finished in single digits for scoring. Neither one of them had a good game. I expect both of those guys to bounce back. They're the 2 big scoring threats for this Utah Jazz team. So if they don't bounce back, the under's definitely going to hit, and Utah's definitely going to be going home here today. So I do expect those guys to play a little better. As for some of the over-unders that I'm looking at in this game, though, I do like Jalen Brunson again. Over 20.5 points, minus 110 on DraftKings, MGM, and Caesars. In the last 2 games, even with Luka back, he's played 35 and 37 minutes. He's taken 18 and 20 field goal attempts, and he scored 23 and 24 points. So this is a guy who's still getting it done, even with Luka back. Everybody was worried that his numbers were going to take a massive hit. The guy whose numbers really took the hit was Spencer Dinwiddie. Brunson has been great for them all season and has been great for them in the last 2 games anyway. So I like Jalen Brunson over 20.5 points here. The other thing I have a little bit of interest in is Dorian Finney-Smith over 4.5 rebounds. Only 1 game in this series where he didn't have over 4.5 rebounds. And he's actually averaging, over 5.5 rebounds for the series. The thing that I like about Dorian Finney-Smith and why I think this is safe, he's averaging 42 minutes per game this series. He's been on the floor for over 40 minutes in every single game. His lowest minutes total was 40, and every other game he's been higher than that. So I think the fact that he's going to be on the floor for quite a bit of time today makes Dorian Finney-Smith a very interesting play here today. The Mavericks are the shortest of these three teams to close the series out tonight. They are minus 650 to do that. The Jazz are plus 475 if you want to get down on that side. So let's go back and talk about what the play of the day for the Sleeper app is going to be here today. So today, for me, the play of the day on the Sleeper app is going to be Gary Trent over 2.5 3-pointers, along with Jonas Valanciunas over 12.5 rebounds. Remember, in the sports books, these are like minus 135, minus 140 kind of plays, which means that they're more than 60% likely to happen. And that's what we're really looking for here. We're looking for things that are more likely than a 50-50 coin flip to happen, so that over the long term, if we keep betting on those things, or if we keep putting money on the sleeper apps and the over-unders on those things, on the over or the underside, we're going to wind up being profitable in the long term because we're betting on, we're putting money on things that we think are more likely to happen than the odds that we're getting paid out for them. So again, I don't want to play either one of these things really at minus 140 on the sports books, but on the sleeper app, I would definitely be interested in them because they are two of the things that bettors and sports books are saying are more likely to happen than some of this other stuff at minus 110. That's like a 52 to 48% chance of happening. So for me, the play of the day for the sleeper app is going to be Gary Trent Jr. over 2.5 threes and Jonas Valanciunas over 12.5 rebounds. We're going to take a quick break here on the FTNBets Cast and be right back to talk a little bit of NFL draft stuff. And welcome back to the FTNBets Cast for Thursday, April 28th here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our good friends at Sleeper HQ. It is draft day, everybody. The NFL draft kicks off tonight in Las Vegas, which we were supposed to have last year, but COVID had other plans. So this year there is a huge 3-day spectacular planned. All kinds of stuff over there out in Las Vegas. They have all kinds of fan experiences and things going on. They have a stage set up. I think it's over at the MGM, but don't quote me on that. I'm still in New Jersey. I didn't go out to Vegas to watch it. But it should be a lot of fun. It is going to be televised. I think 8 o'clock tonight is when it kicks off. And as always, we will have our FTN fantasy draft coverage going on tonight as well. We have all our analysts from the FTN network come onto our YouTube channel and kind of give their ideas and their thoughts on some of the picks that were drafted, what kind of impact these guys are going to have in fantasy, how they're going to help some of the other players that are there. You know, maybe you get some wide receivers going to a young quarterback who needs them, or, you know, maybe you get some offensive line help for Joe Burrow finally, or something along those lines that could help these guys have better fantasy seasons than are expected. But considering that this is the Bets Cast, we're going to talk about a couple wagers that I think are a little bit interesting on some of the sports books out there for the NFL draft tonight. And there's quite a few that I'm going to talk about. The first one I want to talk about is the number of wide receivers drafted in the first round. A lot of mock drafts I'm seeing have anywhere between 5 and 6. The number is actually 6.5. It is under 6.5 you can get at minus 120 on DraftKings right now. And I think that's a really good number to play. Because even in most of the mock drafts that I'm seeing, the number doesn't ever get up to 7. It always gets up to 6 at the most. And a lot of times it's only 5. So I think we actually have some value to the under part of this number. Yes, you're going to get guys like, you know, Drake and Williams are probably going to go off the board in the first 10 to 15 picks. But I don't think there's going to be more than 3 wide receivers that are off the board in the first 15 picks, which really means that we would need 4 wide receivers to be picked in the back end of this draft. And I just really don't see that happening. There's a lot of receiver depth and a lot of receiver talent. So I think there's going to be enough teams that say, you know what? We don't have to reach with a first round pick to go get a wide receiver. We could wait till the second, maybe even the third round to get a guy that can contribute. And if you look at some of the best wide receivers in the NFL right now, sure, there are some big guys that have been drafted really high up towards the top of the, you know, draft in the first round, top 10, 15 picks that have wound up hitting. But you also have a lot of these guys at the beginning of the second round that have turned into some really high quality Pro Bowl caliber, maybe even future Hall of Fame type players. So I don't think wide receiver is one of those places where you have to kind of reach. Are there a couple elite options? Yeah. I think Drake is pretty elite. I think Williams is pretty elite, but you also have to know that Williams is going to be out for probably a couple months as he recovers from an injury that ended his college season last year. So, you know, again, I just don't see how we're going to get to 7 wide receivers here. So First play of the night that I want to talk about is under 6.5 wide receivers over on DraftKings, minus 120. It was minus 110. It's actually moved in, a little bit further there, which only gives me a little bit more, conviction in what I'm looking at here. So that's the first play I'm looking at here tonight. And before I talk about the second play, I want to bring in our special guest here again, one more time here today, Little E.
With the 10th pick in the NFL draft, the New York Jets select.
And as you guys know, I am a massive New York Jets fan, and I made my kids Jets fans. And you know what? Whatever. You can call child services on me if you want for doing that. I don't really care. It is the way that we do things in this household. And the Jets are in a very interesting position in this draft. They have 2 picks in the top 10. A lot of what I'm reading is that everybody thinks the Jets are going to go wide receiver with that 10th pick, and it's going to be between, Drake or Williams as who they're going to wind up taking there. But I have another take on this. The guy that has been linked to the Jets since the season started because of how bad their secondary has been Kyle Hamilton of Notre Dame, the safety. You could get Hamilton right now at plus 1,500. So basically 15-1 to be the Jets pick with the number 10 overall pick in this draft. I think there's a good chance that the Jets do actually pull the trigger on him to give themselves a much better secondary, which is one of the biggest weaknesses this team had last year. I know that they did sign one safety. They also signed a cornerback, but they needed to basically overhaul the entire back end of that defense last year. And this would just be another thing that kind of solidifies it for them and makes them a much better contender this season. So I like the fact that Kyle Hamilton is 15-1 because I think there's a chance that the Jets could take him here. Now, again, at 15-1, this is not something you need to put a massive bet on here. You could put you put $50 on this and it winds up winning, you get $750 back. You put $20 on it and it winds up hitting, you get $300 back. This is one of those things that you take a little chance on here. If you have some of those, whatever sports book you're playing on, if you have some of those like free bets that are out there, the $10, $20, $15 free bets they throw you for, I don't know, number of 3-pointers somebody hits in a game or whatever. When you get those bonus bets, these are the kind of things I like to use them on. Something that has a little bit of juice to it, something that you could get a nice payout for. And you know what? Worst case scenario, if you lose that free $25 bet that you got, so what? No big deal. But if you hit on it, you could win $300 or $400 on it. So this is one of the things I like. Kyle Hamilton to be the 10th pick in the draft to the New York Jets, plus 1,500. Now, because I am not as high on the Jets taking Drake, I think there's a better chance the Jets take Jamison Williams. That's the guy that I think everybody would have said without the injury was the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver in this draft. And the Jets do have a decent amount of depth at wide receiver where if they have to bring him along slow, if he's not ready to play at the beginning of the year, and you don't wind up seeing him to the middle of the end of the season, it's not really all that big a deal for the Jets. They have 2 first-round draft picks. They have a bunch of picks in this draft as well. They're still going to be able to get a bunch of players, a bunch of guys that can contribute. They made a bunch of moves in free agency this year. This is the kind of team that can take him, let him sit on the bench, and then next year or even at the end of this year, you're looking at, Corey Davis on one side, Jamison Williams on the other side with Elijah Moore in the slot. That is an amazing group of wide receivers if the Jets could put that together. Because I think they have a chance to take Hamilton or Williams, I also like the over on Drake to be drafted before pick 10.5. You can get this right now at even money, and that's really what I'm looking at here. I think that's a really good play, another thing that I'm looking at. So the next bet I want to talk about is one that I don't actually have a bet on. I just thought the numbers were really interesting, and that's the number of quarterbacks to be taken in the first round, over 2.5. So the first 2, everybody knows. What we're really wondering is, will there be a third quarterback that is taken in the first round? And the numbers are very interesting here. On FanDuel right now, this is minus 320. They're basically saying there's like a 75% chance that there will be a third quarterback taken in the first round of this draft. But if you go look on some other sites right now, they have the guys who would be that third quarterback plus 140, plus 150, plus 130. So it's very interesting to look and see and try to figure out why some of the sites think that, yeah, it's a lock. There's going to be 3 in the first round. And then other sites are looking at it like, well, we don't really think there's going to be 3 in the first round because we don't even know who that third guy is going to be. This is one of those bets that I'm staying away from, but I just thought it was interesting and kind of wanted to mention it to you because you can get this number as bad as minus 320 on FanDuel. There's other books out there that have this at like a minus 150. So if it's minus 150 versus minus 320, we're talking about a big difference in the payout that you got. You would have to lay 320 to win 100 in one case. You only have to lay 150 to win 100 in the other case. Hell, you could lay 300 and win 200 at the minus 150 on the same bet that you would have to lay 320 to win 100 on FanDuel. So definitely make sure you look around. The NFL draft is not like a normal betting market where everybody's had a long time to kind of pick through all this stuff and really pick out all the favorites and the values. There is a lot of value here. There's a lot of difference of opinions, and there is a big, big spread in what you're going to get on some of these bets on one site or another. One last bet I'll throw out there for you guys that are interested. You can get right now, if you go over to FTNBets.com, if you click on the football icon right now, obviously there's no football games going on, but you do have a bunch of our experts have been throwing in their favorite NFL draft bets here. I know Jeff Ratcliffe has some up. Gio has some up. I have some up over there. So you can get over there and check out all the information, all the draft information, and, get all of the picks if you guys are interested. Remember, if you use promo code Benny on FTN Bets, you save 20% off on any package. So get over there and you can make your money back on the draft here today to pay for your monthly package. Give it a try, test it out. Check all the stats, all the graphs, all the charts, all the analysis, all the expert picks that we have every day, not only in MLB, but MLB, NBA, NFL, MMA, PGA golf is teeing off this morning. We had Axis DFS on with us yesterday, talking a little bit of golf action there to make sure you guys had time to get those bets in. Cause I think it was I don't know, it was down in Mexico. I think it was a real early tee off, like first tee time was like 7 or 8 o'clock or something. So again, whatever you're looking at, whatever sports you're looking to get in, if you're looking to make some bets, if you're looking to make smarter bets, get over to FTN Bets, use promo code Benny, save that 20% off, and get in on all the action with us. So the last bet I'm going to leave you guys here is one that Jeff Ratcliffe likes, and I really liked his explanation in our chat about it. And that's going to be the first pick for the Baltimore Ravens to be a defensive player at plus 190. I think there's a really good chance. We talked about a bunch of guys that the Ravens are interested in, a bunch of guys on the defensive line, linebacker, hybrid types on the outside that could rush the passer. I think this is going to be the way that the Baltimore Ravens go here. I think their offense is what their offense is. I don't know if a first round pick at any position is really going to make them all that much better. I think what they really need to do is bulk up that defense, and I think that's what it's going to be. At plus 190, I think that's a really good value over there. Kudos for Jeff for shouting that one out. I definitely made sure to put that one in myself. So there you go. That's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the FTN Bets Cast. Want to give a shout out to my podcasting partner, Little E, Ethan Ricciardi on Take Your Kid to Work Day, who's hanging out with me here today. And remember, you can get over to the Sleeper app. Look down in the description of the Sleeper app, or look down in the description of this podcast, I should say. You can get the sign on for the Sleeper app. Use promo code FTN Bets. Deposit up to $100. They will match it up to $100 over there. And there you go. One last thing. E, you want to sign off?
Sure.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right. He's not the best color band in the business for nothing, folks. This is Benny Ricciardi signing off for the FTN's Bets Cast here at FTN Bets, sponsored by Sleeper HQ. Good luck, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.